Hello and welcome to the very first episode of The Board Crew. I'm Ben.
And I'm Tony.
Yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about a few board games. We're going to be talking about Edo.
Heat. Oh, sorry. Sky Team.
And Heat.
I'm so excited for Heat.
I know, Heat's great, but we're going to leave that for the end.
Yeah, that's why. That's why. Got to keep it for the end.
That's it. I mean, there's so many great games. Thankfully, we'll have many great episodes to talk about.
Hopefully.
Many great games.
Hopefully, yeah.
And occasionally some bad ones, I'm sure. Like that.
It's all part of the fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. Thankfully, I don't think there's any bad ones in tonight's lineup, though.
Well, yeah. Well, they all seem like ace games, so we should be fine.
Yeah, we should be good.
Yeah.
We figured we'd lower people into this.
Yeah.
Gently, not right. Go for the jugular straight away.
Sounds good. But Edo, I've never actually played. So, Ben, what is Edo?
Okay, so Edo is a party game. And basically what happens is everyone gets a number from 1 to 100. And I think I have played this with you.
Maybe I did, yeah.
And it's got a weird name, though.
Yeah.
And so everyone gets a card that is number 1 to 100. And then in the middle of the table, you'll put a topic. That topic is now a scale question between 1 and 100. So maybe the question is the best size box or something. And number 1 would be the very worst size box, and number 100 would be the best size box.
Jesus,
that would be an awful question to have to do. I'm just looking at boxes at the moment, so it came in. And so I'm not sure. What would be the best size box?
I don't know. Depends what you got. I mean, board games. Yeah, board game box is really nice. But
board game box, yeah.
I
think if I had 100, I would say this is a box that shapes to the size that you need.
Yeah,
exactly.
I guess you could go with like it's like a box of holding. You know, like it holds whatever you need inside. Yeah, that sort of thing.
That would definitely be the 100. And conversely, like the 1 in that case would probably be like the box of crushing or something. Of whatever you put into it gets crushed and damped. So,
doesn't have to be real; it just has to be extreme.
Yeah, that's it. So you're not going to be able to talk about your actual number. Instead, you have to give the rest of the table clues about where your number really lies on the scale. So,
right.
If you've got like around a 50, you might say, well, it's a cardboard box and it's just an ordinary box that you find at the grocery store.
The most average box you've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a very average cardboard sized box.
Cardboard sized box.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how you would describe the exact 50.
Yeah.
But
well, I guess that's part of the fun, isn't it? Like, yeah, I mean, I did play this with you, so apologies for that. It was the scale of how good a person and it was like...
That's right. It was best living to worst living person.
Yeah.
Which was hard because you had to have living person. So like you couldn't straight go like Hitler, Mother Teresa.
Yeah, that's it. Very true. And then I started getting worried because we played with a bunch of us, and like Adam and I had a very like numbers very close together, and when he was saying, I'm like, oh, maybe my number's higher than his or not. And it was like, we were like 61, 62, but our descriptions were so far apart. It's like just gauging on what you think is the best or the worst or the highest or lowest of whatever it's questioning, I guess.
You guys were both talking about like someone that goes along and maybe helps out at the school fete every now and then.
Yeah, donates to charity.
Yeah, donates a little bit to charity, etc. Whereas on the other side of the scale, we had people that were like taking child support for kids that didn't exist.
Yeah. But we were sort of like 20 points apart. It's like it was such a big divide.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. I think I had a person that thought COVID was caused by 5G. And the only thing they did about that, though, was went on Facebook occasionally.
Just complain a little bit. Yeah.
So, and I think my number was around 30 or something. But,
right. Fair enough. And who was this game designed by?
Well, this is odd. This game is designed by either 326 or maybe 326 or 326. I'm very sorry. I would have thought I could pronounce that name, but I don't know.
Just a number on a screen. Like, is it Blink 182 or is it Blink 182?
Yeah, it's terrible. So this is a Japanese artist and poet. And so he goes by the handle of maybe 326, I'm going to go with.
Asian 47.
And so currently the game's only just come out in English. I've never actually played the English copy. I've played the Japanese. copy, and what we played was just a mashup of some board game components that I own.
Fair enough.
I used a pack of Slide 5 cards and wavelength cards for the questions.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So, which works really well. So you can play this at home, but I would like to actually get a copy of the English version. The art looks really nice. The Japanese copy has nice little anime figures on the cards.
Oh,
and
nice.
so right down to one where they're very sad and I think everything's going wrong for the anime figures, up to 100 where it's like a party of going well. And it does get increasingly harder it's a cooperative game if you hadn't sort of worked that out from our description. But sort of if you make it through the first round with everyone's cards being played in order, then everyone gets 2 cards. And if you make that, then everyone gets 3 cards and there's a card dealt in the middle. But I really like the discussion that happens from this because you can ask people questions about the card. Some clarifying things, which sometimes make it even murkier. So,
Yeah. So do you think that they're like above average or below average? Below average. Okay. But it's like 49. It's like, oh, God, that doesn't make it any clearer.
Yeah, it doesn't make it very clear at all. I think one of the ones we had was a formal or less formal event, and someone was a good friend, Adam, who you'll probably hear on the podcast one time, was like, oh, well, it's a hippie commitment ceremony.
Yeah.
And people were like, what are they wearing at this? He's like, oh, barefoot, etc. But people were like, well, it's like a formal occasion, but clearly the people at it are very informal. So there was lots of questions about that. People were asking about work parties, like were there speeches at
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I had the work party because I think it was number 51 or 52. So I was like, it's a like Friday night work party. Half the people are formal, half the people are not. And it's like, how do I make this more average a party? Like, is it standing or is it seating? It's standing, I guess. That's less formal. Anyway.
Yeah. So I really like it, actually. I think it's a great icebreaker. It has the advantage of everyone gets a chance to talk, but everyone also gets the chance to kind of contribute their opinion on other people's sort of topics. Whereas sometimes with party games, it's like only the person that works out the puzzle kind of gets to jump in and say something like code names or wavelength, etc. So
yeah, for sure, it did feel very inclusive when we played it because everyone has to get their number across somehow, and so everyone has to have an input. Yeah, but yeah, as you said, like if you got someone who, when you're playing those party games, who just seems to know what it is, other people can kind of get sidelined, and if they're not extroverted or they don't like to be pushy and talking, they can very much get pushed aside, and that just sucks. Yeah, if something like that happens. So it's good how inclusive it is. Yeah, like forced inclusion almost. It's good.
Yeah, which I guess is the flip side, because if you have people that really are not comfortable sort of making up a story or being put, it's not quite on the spot because you don't have turns per se. People just jump in as they feel like it. But for some people that can be quite intimidating. So, I mean, Ito is probably very group dependent.
Yeah. I guess, you want to be comfortable with the people you're around. So if that is the case, so that way you can open up a bit and let yourself shine a little.
Yeah, definitely. So that's good. Ito. I would recommend giving it a go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Oh. The next board game we're talking about is one I've played quite a few times recently called Sky Teams, designed by Luc Remond and published by Scorpion Masqué. And it's a 2-player game where you are both a pilot and co-pilot trying to land an airplane within, I think it's 6 or 7 rounds.
Yeah.
And you seem to have a hardcore caffeine addiction at the same time as you're doing this.
I assume all pilots make coffee on their flight.
Yeah.
Like, that seems to be what you do.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's what you always see in the videos and everything, isn't it? Oh, let's just have a coffee. Like, all right, the plane's flying itself. It's a dice placement game where you can't talk with your co-pilot through the whole turn. You have 4 dice each, and you have to achieve basically a bunch of objectives of releasing your flaps, releasing your wheels, setting up your brakes, controlling your speed, and controlling the pitch of your aircraft to begin with. Yeah. And then within that, they've got obstacles of other planes in the way as you're flying towards the airport, and also you're descending constantly towards the airport. If you overshoot it, you lose. If you don't get down far enough, you lose. If you pitch too much, Your plane crashes, you lose. If you go too fast or too slow, you lose. If your wings and stuff aren't out, you lose. It's very easy to lose, but it's a great game. It is stressful in the best way because you roll your dice, you place them with your co-pilot, you're both taking turns, and then after they're all placed, you can discuss and then go back again and try and get your plane landed.
Yeah, and so this one's 2-player only.
Yeah, purely 2-player.
And I've got to admit, when I first heard like a 2-player only co-op that you roll dice and you get to roll 4 dice and you got to place those over and over, I thought this is going to be the stupidest game.
It's so boring, but it is chef's kiss. It is fantastic.
It is amazing how much tension they've put in that placing the dice and how much you actually can communicate to your partner by not saying anything, but by which die you play first.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Where. Like, if I'm going to play a 6 on the tilt, I'm basically going, we're in for a rough ride. And you need to do something about it.
Yeah, if that's your first dice, you're literally communicating, this is all I have.
Yep.
We need to sort this before you get there. And that's the other like hard thing. Like your dice are getting chewed up because you have to do the pitch. You have to do the engine every turn. So 2 of your dice are immediately gone every single time. And like you said, like playing with a partner, the first time I played with a friend of the group, Michael, who I didn't know that well. And I thought, playing as a 2-player, if I don't know the person, we're going to be able to understand each other. And we actually got into a rhythm very quickly. It's very intuitive to get into.
Yeah, I agree. Jenny and I have been playing this pretty much non-stop. I think we've been having a shot every 2 nights.
Yeah, I saw it on your table.
Yeah. And so we've now finished all of the green and all of the yellow, and we're into the red missions.
Oh, jeez.
Insanity. I mean, so even just at the start, having to deal with planes and tilt and flaps and landing gear and brakes is pretty intense. But you start adding things like fuel and wind and kind of mountains that you've got to steer around as you're coming in. So you can't just keep the plane level the whole time. I think the hardest module that I've played with is the ice brakes, where the
you
brakes
have to have all the brakes.
You've got to get all the brakes, and both players have to place the die on the brakes at the same time in each round, which is and there's more brakes. So there's 5 brakes that have to be deployed, and both players have to deploy like a 2 on the same round. And if one of you puts down a 2 and then the other one doesn't, you've just wasted a die, which you can't afford to do in this game.
No.
And so it's really interesting how it just kind of has lots of easy rules, like to add those sort of different modules.
Yeah.
But really ramp up the difficulty but still kind of achievable. Oh, I don't know. The red ones that we've started, I'm not sure how we're going to beat them.
I mean, to be fair, like I played with another Ben. We did Heathrow, and like he had never played it, and I played it that one time before, and I taught it to him so quickly. It's insane how quick a teach it is. Like that's another benefit of it's rules light, but it's kind of strategy, not heavy. I'm not going to say heavy, but like in the moment of like your 4 dice, you're like, I don't know what they have. Okay, I put this 4 here. They put a 3. Okay, why couldn't they do? All right, we got to do this. Okay, and then you can talk afterwards, like, this happened. All right, if I do this, maybe do this, and so it's that strategy starts to build on top of itself. But yeah, then just adding, we went crazy, went straight for a red after doing Heathrow. What was it? Where's the first place?
Heathrow or Toronto?
No, it's not. It's oh my god, that's gonna escape me for so long. Montreal. Montreal's the first one. Yes. So the first place you land is Montreal, and then we moved to a red one, and we just added all these components, but they all make sense, like mechanically and thematically, which was really nice.
Yeah.
So like as you said, going through the fuel, dealing with the wind, dealing with interns who are learning how to fly while you're there too, and it's like
I actually find the interns slightly helpful because at least that way you know what die you have access to. You
yes.
can always change something to something.
Yeah, because they're numbered 1 to 6.
To train the intern as it goes. Did you get to play with any of the sort of special powers that you get?
We did, yeah. So we had one power where you could swap your die to the opposite pip.
Yeah.
But we didn't use it. But I think that's just because we forgot about it in the moment. But either way, it was lots of fun. I would highly recommend it for like if you want to play with your mate, your partner, whatever. It is a lot of fun and an easy teach.
Yeah, I agree. I would highly recommend it. I think it's a really great game for couples, especially that aren't looking for a head-to-head two-player,
Yeah.
or a co-op where one of the partners can kind of just alpha game the whole thing.
For sure.
And because you don't know what your partner's role, and you've just got to kind of feel it out. So yeah, I love it. Plays in probably 20 minutes.
I was
maybe
about to
30
say,
minutes.
yeah, it's really quick. And like as you said, it's inclusive. Because both people, you got 50-50 to make this happen. No one can dominate. It's you working together.
100%. Okay, last question. Do you prefer pilot or co-pilot?
I've played mainly as the pilot, so I think I prefer the pilot.
Yeah,
But
same. I've played once as a co-pilot and crashed, so I'm pilot all the way.
I sucked being the co-pilot. But I mean, yeah, I just, I don't know. I think it was so weird getting into that rhythm as a pilot and then going over and like, oh, now I have to tell the other planes to get out of the way. It's like, right, that's my job now. I'm not worrying about the brakes. I'm worrying about the planes in front of us. And so, yeah. Yeah. You have your own little special, unique roles within there, but you're both doing essentially the same thing.
Yeah, yep. It's great. All right. Well,
fantastic.
That's Sky Team. Highly recommended by both of us.
Yeah. Last board game. We teased it at the start. Ben, what is it?
It's Heat. Pedal to the metal.
Pedal to the metal.
Or I guess fully the title is Heat: Pedal to the Metal. So this is a game designed by, I'm going to butcher this, I'm very sorry to the designers. But
They're going to come after us.
Asker Granold and Daniel Pedersen. Pedersen?
Yep.
Maybe? I don't know. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm sure that's not
Sorry,
anyway.
Asker and Daniel. I'm sure you're listening to this and just
Yeah.
hating us right now.
Yeah, 100%. You're going to be our first listeners and then turn off for the rest of the time.
Immediately go against us.
Yeah, we will try and pronounce people right, but having not heard them actually said out loud before, that's our best guess. So.
Either way. And published by Days of Wonder.
Yeah, Days of Wonder, which is a big publishing group.
That is a big team. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and these guys have done some real bangers of games too. And I don't think Heat's any exception. So maybe we should talk about what we actually do in Heat.
Yeah.
So Heat is a racing game. You're going to take just one car. Each player will take one car, and you're doing 2 to 3 laps around the track. You're going to do this by, you'll get a hand of cards of varying numbers, usually between 0 and 5 for the base game. And each of those that you play, depending on the gear that you're in. So if you're in first gear, you're going to get to play 1 card out of your hand. If you're in 4th gear, you can play 4 cards out of your hand and possibly regret that. And essentially, you're just going to get round and round this track. The reason that it's called Heat, though, is because you have heat cards in your engine. You start with 6 of them, and that kind of represents the engine's capacity to kind of put the pedal to the metal.
Yeah,
really.
to be pushed, essentially.
So how hard you can push this engine before it all starts going terribly, terribly wrong.
Before you start spinning out and crashing, but not hurting yourself.
Yeah, not hurting yourself.
Yeah.
This is all good family fun.
That's it.
And everyone makes it to the finish line eventually. Maybe.
Yeah, you will. You will make it to the finish line. You might be playing on your own for a couple of rounds, but still.
This isn't Formula Day where you will crash and burn.
I love Formula Day. We'll talk about that one another time.
Yeah, that'll be another one. But in Heat, the way that your heat will be expended is 2 main ways. So one is every time you go around a corner, they'll have a particular speed. So it might be you can only hit this corner at speed 5 or lower. So if I go through that corner with a total of my cards of 7, then I need to pay 2 heat because I've gone 2 over the corner.
You push your car too hard.
I push my car just that little bit hard around that particular corner. The other way that you can pay heat is you can pay it as a boost. So after you've had your move, you're like, now I'm way behind, or I'm going to keep pushing my lead. And so you can flip over the top card of your deck and move that much further on top. And that'll cost you 1 heat. Maybe more if you then overshoot a corner that you were really hoping not to.
Yeah, I just need that 4. Damn, I rolled a 5. Pulled a 5. Yeah. Spin out.
So I really like Heat because it has that perfect mix for me in a racing game of a little bit of chaos, but also a bit of predictability. Like you feel like you've got some control over your car, but there's always those points where it doesn't quite work out the way that you'd planned.
For sure, yeah. Because there are times when you're going down the straight, you're in 4th gear, you're coming up to a turn which is needing 3, and all you have is like a 2, a 1, and a 3 in your hand. So you need to only play 2 cards. So you drop down to second gear, take one heat, you can get around that corner safely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
100%. The other cards that sort of throw a spanner into the works are called stress cards, and you can't get rid of them out of your hand. Once you draw them, they're there until you play them. And when you play them, they just are the speed of whatever the next card that gets flipped over is.
Yeah.
And so you're forced to play them at some point because you can't let them clog up your hand, else you're going to hit a critical corner where it's terrible. But there's never a great time to play them.
No, because if you're on the straight, you want to play your highest cards. If you're around a corner, you want to play your lowest cards. And then if you start getting too much heat and you just have heat and stress in your hand, because it's like you've stopped concentrating on the race, that's why you have the stress cards. You pull those out, and it's like I could move 2 spaces with these 2 cards, or I could move 8 spaces, and it's just luck of the draw, and you just hope to God you get the right cards that you need in that moment.
Yeah, 100%. Look, every time that I've played Heat, it's always pretty much ended up pretty close between the pole positions.
Yeah.
We just played a game recently on BGA where I think I won.
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah, I came in first, but I was only 1 space ahead of Tony and Daniel. They were both 1 space behind me.
That was a very tight race.
Yeah. And I thought I had that halfway through that race. I thought, like, there's no way they can catch me. And then, I got a few bad stress cards, and suddenly they were right up my butt again.
It can all go horribly wrong. Yeah, that was one thing. It was great playing with the 3 of us. We then played again where we had another 3 people, so it was a 6-person race. And like kind of watching that, it felt to me that yourself, Daniel, and I had more of a grip on the game, so we were able to get around the track better. But everyone else who was playing with us didn't quite know the mechanics as well, and so they kind of fell behind. I was like, oh, that's a bit crappy in its own way. Not fault of the game design, but purely because we knew how to play it better, I guess, essentially.
It is a game that rewards repeated plays. I don't think it takes too long to hit that skill ceiling.
No.
But first-time players will struggle a bit. I think what I learnt after 1 or 2 plays was actually you do want to spend some of your heat.
Yeah.
You don't want to keep it all in your engine. And so actually pushing some of those early corners makes a massive difference. And so watching first-time players that go, oh, this is a speed 5 corner, I'm going to take it at 5.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. And everyone else goes through at 7 or something. Suddenly they're scooting off ahead because they're up 1 more gear or something like that. And so, yeah, those kind of decisions only really come to light once you've played once or twice.
Yeah. And I guess to be fair, it's a pretty quick game.
Yeah.
Like, 30 to 40 minutes, you could probably bang out a game and then set it all up again. Go again with that bit more knowledge. I guess like a race car driver, you learn your tracks, you learn where to push it, where not to.
Yeah, well, that's a great thing. The box comes with 4 different tracks, so lots of replayability there. I mean, the tracks aren't massively different, but they do feel different as you're racing around just because of the length of straights or how tight some of those corners are. Like some of them have speed 2 corners, which are just brutal, but great. There are also a ton of extra modules, so you can kind of draft, customize your car.
We did that once, didn't we?
We've done that once. There's some weather, which I haven't really played with, and there's an entire championship race that you can race where your car kind of gets better and worse as you go. I'd love to be able to dive into that kind of stuff, but I just haven't got it to the table enough yet.
It feels like if you've ever played Flamme Rouge, this is very much like Flamme Rouge with sports cars. Like, it feels a lot like that sort of style.
I think it's actually same designers of Flamme Rouge.
There you go.
There's part of that. I like Heat a lot more than Flamme Rouge.
I've never played Flamme Rouge, and I've always wanted to, but
yeah, I think for me, Heat the difference is Flamme Rouge is much more predictable. And when you stuff up in Flamme Rouge, you know exactly whose fault it is. In Heat, at least you can blame like the other drivers a little bit because I was supposed to slip you that round and then I just couldn't, or I had happened to pull those stress cards at the time that I didn't want to, and I like a little bit more chaos in my racing games, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's why I love Formula D, but we're talking about Heat.
Yeah, we're talking about Heat.
Which, it does have that nice little element of chaos, as you said. I mean, all around, great game.
Yeah, it's great. And because it's by Days of Wonder, the production is really nice as well.
Yeah.
The little cars, the track, the player boards are really nice it has the whole turn order on the 7 phases, which sound like tons, but most of those are pretty...
It's kind of intuitive a little bit in itself.
Yeah, once you've played 1 or 2 turns, most people don't even look down at the player board anymore. They're kind of like just going, well, this is what I'm doing with my car.
Yeah.
And off I go. Son. But it is nice that it's got those kind of player aids. And the art is a lovely sort of... takes you back to sort of, I would say like 1930s?
1940s maybe.
30s, kind of... those sort of speed racers, you know, the guys with the helmets and the goggles and like in those little open pit cars and like off they go.
Yeah,
and,
Ferrari versus Ford, very early day racing.
Yeah.
We have no protection. It's just we go with a pair of goggles and a helmet.
Yeah. And our little car just can't quite take these corners as much as we'd love it to.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's probably to its benefit because of the simplicity of you turn cards for speed, you get heat, you get stress. So by going to an older style car for their artwork, it goes with the style. Like, I mean, if you've ever watched a modern Formula One match, like or race, the amount of buttons and everything they have is just insane. Like, you're driving a car, how many buttons do you need? Like, but anyway.
that's it. And just 4 gears, which works well for the older cars.
Yeah, that's it. It's perfect. Yeah. Luckily, you never hit reverse, which is awesome.
Awesome. So that was Heat. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up our episode. So we've talked about Itto, Heat, and Sky Team. 3 great games.
3 very good
Tony,
games.
if you had to pick one of them that you were going to play after this, which one would you go for?
Is it just you and me playing?
I mean, let's imagine that you can get enough players for Heat if that's what you want. I mean, 2-player Itto does not sound like the best.
I mean, a whole group for Itto is pretty good as well.
Yeah, that's true. Jenny's in the next room, but
yeah, true. If I had to pick one to play immediately afterwards, and I had the choice of everything, I'd probably go Sky Team. I really like Sky Team. I know it was the one I spoke about. That's not the reason. It's just that has drawn me in a way I didn't think it would.
I think I've got to agree. Like, you know, like I would never turn down a game of Itto or of Heat. Both are fantastic. But really, if someone plonked a game of Sky Team in front of me and goes, let's go, then I'd be sitting down setting up before they'd even finish the question.
Yeah, I mean, probably by the time they finish the question, you're already set up and going, which airport would you like? Like,
Yeah,
it's so
and
quick.
by the way, I'm pilot.
Yeah. No, I'm pilot.
Oh, wow. This could be tough. Look, thanks very much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See you next time.
Bye.
Oh, right. Okay. So that's the cut point.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
that
nice.
point we can put in Johnson's sing.
Do we have anything of his sound effect or anything yet?
Not yet. No.
Okay. All right.